How are you, folks? Enzo DiCostanzo, and today we're finishing our what is it? The sixth one, I suppose. Yeah, the sixth video or the sixth lecture on stock valuation, and we're going to work on the graphs, and we're going to talk about the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones. So let's get right to it. As Christmas is closing in, we have the long weeks coming. We have the long holiday weeks coming up. Okay, so we left off here, and then we have the graphs that we're going to look at. So we didn't make these graphs, the annual returns and the scatter plot here. This is a time series. These are the percentage returns on the S&P 500 based on how the year behaved. And it's not every year, I don't think. Yeah, because it goes back to 1960, or maybe it is. Maybe it is every year. Yeah, maybe it is. So I don't know how much data. So that would be 40. That'd be 60 of these. So I don't know if we have 60 of these, but we'll get to that. Actually, we got to make another table at the bottom here. Yeah, no, we do. We do have 60. Yeah, we do have 60 pieces of data. Okay, we'll get to that. But here, let's start with this. It says the Nasdaq, and I'm sure you hear this stuff on the news and you hear it all over the place. It says the Nasdaq versus the S&P 500 versus the Dow Jones. What are the differences? So, the DJIA or the S&P 500, which I reference in class a lot because it's the biggest one. I always forget what the Nasdaq, how many components it has, if it has 1,800 or something, but it's got more than 3,000. It's a big, I know it's a big one. I was gonna say the S&P 500 is the biggest one, but it's the biggest one in terms of the 500 biggest companies. But there's more individual companies on the Nasdaq. They're considered measures of market performance on a given day. They're the basis for many investment products that are modeled on daily price movements. And it's, I'm in the business, and I like just now I had to do a double take and say, oh, is it 1,800? Is it 3,000? How many components are in these? I know the Dow is 30. That's obviously the S&P 500 is 500, but there's a lot of these indices. It's not just three. There's especially the Standard & Poor's. They put a bunch of them out. We're going to look at the differences and the characteristics and how they're used, and based on the performance, and the market conditions, how different products are created. What I do outside of my college teaching is I look at very specific deals, specific at a micro level, but also the macro picture. So I have, a couple irons in the fire, so to speak. But there's products where they're very far away from what Apple is doing or what Microsoft is doing or what a specific company is doing, and they just follow the behavior of the buyers. They're basically following the behavior of supply and demand out in the market. That's about what these products are doing, and all the big pension fund managers and the sort of the I don't want to say the civilian, but sort of the personal financial planning and consultant market. They're trying to sell these to the retail customer out there that doesn't have $10 million to invest in this stuff. So their indices are used to measure market performance. The Nasdaq and the S&P cover a lot more sectors, have a lot more stocks, but the Dow Jones is figuratively the 30 best companies in the country. I don't know if I have them listed anywhere here. Somewhere I've got them listed, but you can look them up. It's Travelers Insurance. It's a spectrum of components. This is what's in the 10 largest components of the S&P 500: Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google, and there's a couple classes of shares there: Facebook, Meta, JP Morgan. It's going to be like that. JP Morgan's in the Dow Jones also. I had them listed someplace. We have the Dow Divisor here. Yeah, here they are. I knew I listed them. These are the components of the Dow Jones: American Express, Apple, Boeing, Goldman Sachs, Home Depot, IBM, Intel, Johnson & Johnson, McDonald's, Microsoft. Is ExxonMobil in here any longer? Or it should be, or used to be. It's not, but I don't know why. But it's because the oil companies are very profitable. Travelers, which is insurance. Procter & Gamble. Okay, Walmart's a big one. Walt Disney. Okay, so but like I said, this and last spring I spent a lot of time on these topics. That's why I have the notes all set up, which I'm happy about. Yeah, the Nasdaq and the S&P are market capitalizations. the weightings of those indices are based on the capitalization, while the Dow assigns it based on the price only. And I think I may have said in previous videos how the Dow Jones average was initially computed. There were 10 companies, and somebody added up those 10 prices and divided by 10 or something, or 12 or whatever, however many companies there were out there. And that was it. That was the Dow Jones index. And there was nothing about capitalization and how many shares and how big the company was, because not that you can't tell anything from price of shares, but there's more to the picture than that. The universe and sectors that are part of the indices, the Nasdaq and the S&P cover more companies than the Dow. Another difference is the method of assigning weights to individual companies in the index. The Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P weigh the constituents based on market capitalization, which I think we discussed in previous videos. It's the market price times how many shares, which is the value of the equity, not the debt, the value of the equity of the company. And the Dow Jones uses each constituent stock price to determine the weight in the index. The final difference is the criteria used to select the constituents. The Dow is more value-oriented and uses a mix of quantitative and qualitative factors. It's, as I rattled off those companies on the Dow Jones, you knew them all. Where in the S&P 500, there's probably a lot of companies you've never heard of or don't even know what they do. Okay, you say Johnson & Johnson, you know what that is. You say Walmart, you know what that is. You say JP Morgan, you know what that is. Even the chemical companies, you probably have some sense of what those companies do. There's quantitative factors, there's qualitative factors. Okay, the Nasdaq came about in the 70s at an initial value of 100, and I think now it's 30 times that or something. It's many times that initial index. And it says one of the criteria for inclusion is a listing on an exchange. So the Nasdaq has more than 300 stocks as constituents and its capitalization weighted index, meaning that it assigns weights based on the market cap of the respective companies. And the composites performance reflects that of the exchange, in which in turn is indicative of the performance of the technology sector. And that's the technology sector makes up about 50% of the index. The top 10 companies tracked by the index were technology giants and accounted for about 44% of the overall weight of the index as of December last year, a year ago. So as technology becomes more important, the significance of the Nasdaq expands. During the dot-com bubble, I think we were up to about 5,000, and then it crashed by about 80% of that, and then took 15 years to get back to 5,000 again. In the pandemic, induced boom in stocks once again boosted the tech valuations, and the value shot up to about 16,000 a year ago, November. So again, these are just some of the value. You can put in this November 19th and this December, whatever, this December 2022, you could recompute that. The tough thing about this is you're dealing with 3,000. And you know me, I like to have you guys make computations and sort of validate what's going on. And it's very tough when there's 3,000 components. Oh yeah, by the way, compute everything. That's a very tough way to ask you to do something. So we just have to take it on face value for the time being. The Dow Jones history is over 100 years old, about 130 years old. And now it has 30 constituents right now, and it has and the fewest members. It's a price weighted large cap index, meaning the overall value is determined by the daily stock price of the constituents of the components of the index. And it's a large, so you're not going to find a company, some startup in Northern California. You're not going to find that on the Dow Jones. Eventually, maybe, but if it turns into Intel or Microsoft, but you're not going to get it in its initial stages. And there's all sorts of indices for as a size based as the company grows. So a stock with a high price will have a disproportionately big impact on the Dow's value. It's a blue chip index because it tracks the performance of key companies that are household names. They're supposed to comprise a subset of the American economy. It's not comprehensive. There's no utilities and transportation. There's a separate index for that. There's a Dow transportation, there's a Dow utility, which again are other indices that if you could really just study how these things are put together, and that in and of itself is a career. There's 9 sectors in the Dow, from information technology to energy and financials, and the criteria is a mix of qualitative and quantitative factors. Reputation, history of generating profits, and as you look at this, you're starting to read Warren Buffett's how Warren Buffett invests in companies, basically, right? As you start to read through this. So profits over the long term, and qualitative factors restricts the number of companies that can be members of the index. In contrast, the Nasdaq and the S&P have bigger coverage universes. that attempt to cover many companies in a bunch of different sectors. The Dow Jones is selective, but again, it's only 30 companies. So how much does that really represent the U.S. economy? In a rising market, there may be instances where investors rotate out of established names and dive into growth stocks. And again, you're getting into the portfolio theory thinking when you say growth stock versus value. I just see a company and we hope it grows and we hope we get it at a good price, kind of a thing. So we have all the components of that we look at. But there's people where you're going to meet portfolio guys out there that have a big task of managing however many people, PSE&G workers and firemen and law enforcement and whoever, federal employees, and managing the UN, managing a lot of people's retirement future, and it's harder to say, oh, I'm just going to spend months on one idea here, and that's a tough thing to do for a guy like that. The Dow closed again. The references were about a year ago to 36,000, but we could easily update all that. That's we could look at the recent. Actually, we could maybe do that right now. Just look at the recent index prices. We might see some of the future stuff up there. This is Yahoo Finance. Recent quotes. Well, the S&P 500, we have that one sitting right there. Yeah, the Nasdaq last closed at 10,000. The Dow is 32,000. The S&P 500 is 3,800. Okay, so, and then you see the Russell's 2,000, which is here, which is another one. Okay, so you have some sense of where these numbers are compared to when these notes came out. So the Dow was 32,000, and we were 36 a year ago. Now we're 32,000. Nasdaq 10,700. Yeah, Nasdaq 10,000, right? And it was 16,000 a year ago. And it was Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P 4,700. Oh, so the S&P is the only one doing better. Oh, no, it's not. It's 38. It was 47 a year ago. So yeah, they're all down consistently. So they're all down by a good clip. They're all down by a good clip from a year ago, whatever that was, December 16th or whatever that was. Which is best? I mean, what does that mean? Which is best? That's insane. Which is best? You'll hear those questions. I get those questions. Which one? What's better? By what measure? By what measure? Right? That's. I'm saying in your head, that's what you should be saying. Don't come out and say that. But you have to filter your criticism. You're not in the classroom. You're not back at Rutgers. Right? You're not at any of these places. You have to filter it out in the world as the spectrum of folks. So the valuations of the indices across the sectors are highly correlated. They generally rise and fall together, which you just saw that. But the extent of the gains or losses for each index differs. The decision to invest in a particular index depends on your strategy and goals. If your goal is diversification, S&P 500. If you're interested in a little preservation of capital, maybe the Dow Jones might be a little bit better. Okay, or more exposure to potentially the next Intel, the next technology company, that's gonna be the Nasdaq. Okay, so it really depends on what your goals are. It's not a zero-sum game. Some stocks are on all the listings. Okay, so, and depending on the economy, say the markets, indexes produce different individual returns, but they do mirror the movements of one another. So, the Dow Jones can rise 10, 11%. The S&P 500 can maybe a little bit more. The Nasdaq a bit more. So you can see the Dow Jones is the end of the line in terms of percentage gain. S&P 500 is middle of the road, and the Nasdaq, when there's movement, when there's a bull market, Nasdaq does the best. But again, you got to know when to get out too. And the big danger with dollar cost averaging and just drop off your money. Warren Buffett would say, drop your money off to me and I'll see you in 40 years. But in 40 years, if we're in the teeth of a depression and you need your money, okay, it'll be more, but I mean, you got to take a little more responsibility than that. I know what he's trying to say, but You got to be Warren Buffett. You got to be careful with what he's a smart guy. He's too smart. You got to be careful with what he says. The higher the figure for the S&P in 2010 was a function of greater number of small stocks, which attracted inflation flows of cash during stock market booms. And the preponderance of small stocks means that the S&P 500 loses value during downturns when investors flee to relative safety of blue chips in the Dow. And there's a couple questions here. The difference, I think we talked about this. What's the best investment? What's price weighted versus market cap weighted? And then your conclusion is the S&P 500, the Dow, and the Nasdaq are different indices. They track market performance, even though they have different pedigrees, inclusion criteria, sectoral composition. The indexes generally move in the same direction. And depending on the economy and the state of the markets, one index might produce a higher return than the others. The S&P 500 can maybe do a better expansion relative to the Dow, but the Dow might not lose as much on the downside. Okay, so if you're made up of more small caps and you cover more sectors, you could maybe produce a little bit of a better return with that. Okay, so I like some of these other questions here. What's the difference? We talked about the price weighted index. It assigns weightings based on stock price. So the higher the trading price will be assigned a bigger weight compared with one with a lower price, and the market cap weighted index, the market capitalization is assigned a higher weight compared to one with a lower market cap. Okay, so obviously the market capitalization moves a market cap weighted index, and the price movement weighs. I mean, you're putting more of a shoulder behind a price change, but there's a lot of shares. If there's a big price swing on the upside of a company with a lot of shares, it's going to have a bigger impact than with less shares. That's really what this means. And then what's the best investment? I mean, we've discussed that the whole way pretty much. What's the difference? Yeah, again, these are market capitalization based, and this is price index based. The Nasdaq and the S&P have a broader and bigger coverage than the Dow. Okay, and the criteria to include that's used to include the stocks, the method of assigning weights to the constituents, and the coverage universe. Those are really the differences. How a stock is added, how the weights are computed, and then the spectrum. How wide of a net are you casting in the economy? Okay, that's our nice little conversation here about the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 and what the differences are. So we had a nice little conversation about that. So you guys will take a look at those notes. Now we have to make the graphs here. We're back to this another time with this, and that also actually what we need to do, and we didn't do it last time. We could have, but we'll do it again to have more experience with the tables. We're going to do the year-over-year returns, and actually we extended it last time, so I guess to all the Novembers. So how are we looking? How do we do this? So okay, so we use the deltas here. These are the changes from December to January in that year. Okay, so did we do that? Do those here? Oh yeah, we did. Okay, we did do these here. Yeah, and actually some of them need to be adjusted a bit. That's top to top, fine. We got to check them. See this one, got to bump these up a bit. Oops. Yeah, yikes. Okay, so we have to go back. Sorry about that. And do this 60 times. Sorry. See, they're a little bit different. They're changing a bit because it's to the January, right? It's December to January. So unfortunately, we're going back over this ground again. So again, put on a little music or something while you're doing this, and you get a little. I mean, they're slightly different numbers. -4, -6, +10, +8, 12, 8%, 19%, 18 or 19, 5.5 minus 24, 16, 84 only. So we got a long way to go. So you can't really fill it down. And then what we did was we took all of these and we equated these annual changes in that table is what we did. And again, folks, welcome to statistics. Oh, there's a little tedium in it. Okay, welcome to it. Okay. And then, so we made all those changes. And these were just links. Yeah, this is the average return of everything. Okay, and this is the average return up to 70, up to 80, up to 90, from 2000. See, they're moving a bit. A bit. Okay. And this other thing, what are these? Yeah, then this is the next one or the previous, right? You're here for T, and this is the one before it. Okay. So yeah, 60 we don't have, right? We don't have 60. Or do we have 60? Or, yeah, no, we do. We do have 960 equals all the way up. December 60. So this is 18, 30. I think what I did was I figured the pattern out eventually, and I was just typing them in as I went along. So this is 62. I think you just add 12. This is 63. Yeah, we just kept adding 12. So it's whatever. Bravo Sierra equals Bravo Sierra 66. 76, 78 equals Bravo Sierra 78. Equals Bravo Sierra 90. And check. At 66, and add another 12. Bravo Sierra 102. Bravo Sierra 114. Bravo Sierra 126. Bravo Sierra 138 equals Bravo Sierra 150 equals Bravo Sierra 162 equals Bravo Sierra 174. Bravo Sierra 186. Bravo Sierra 198. Bravo Sierra 210. 10, Bravo Sierra 222 equals Bravo Sierra 234, Bravo Sierra 246, Bravo Sierra 258, Bravo Sierra 270, Bravo Sierra 282, Bravo Sierra 294, Bravo Sierra 306, Bravo Sierra 318, Bravo Sierra 330, Bravo Sierra 342, Bravo Sierra 354, 42, 54, Bravo Sierra 366, 78, 90, 2, 4, 6, 438, 450, Bravo Sierra 450, 462, Sierra 474, 46, 8, and this is 510. $558, Bravo Sierra 570, Okay, so going back in time, we did it sort of the classic way a bit by just clicking. Okay. So we have within the year, how it changes from January to December. And we extended this a bit because of a bigger universe. And there's nothing here. Then we did average. We did the average return. And here, I'm just going to type an average. Just did all of them. Just the numerical average of those numbers. And we looked at 1970, 835. And yeah, they're going to be different because you have more data points now. All right, that's why they're going to be different. This is 80, 835. This is just to take a look at it and sort of how this is behaved, and we'll we'll study it once we take a look at it also. Well, you had, 9, 7. You can't just say, well, it went up or went down. You can't really say that. It sort of moved around a bit. Okay. And then the previous return is just what you got yesterday. Yeah, that's just what you got yesterday. And then say, hey, is today's return, is it correlated to what happened yesterday? That's what you're going to do. And we're going to do that, a couple different ways. I think we jammed in the graphs. Yeah, we jammed in the graphs here. So let's see what that first graph looks like. We took the annual returns. The annual returns. It's month over month. First data set is just this. And then we'll do insert. You could do a line with this, but we'll do bar. You could do a line with this, something like that. All right, then you click on titles and all that stuff. And also here, you go to select data. Okay. Okay. Those are your year-over-year returns. Put that legend up top. So these are all standard maneuvers that we make. Okay. Go a bit bigger for presentation as we're working on presentation purposes, and also as we're working on it. Standard & Poor's annual return since 1960. Make that smaller. Okay. So we have all that. And we don't need 2 decimal places here. We can make this font or whatever it is. Format the axis, number, maybe make that 1 decimal place. And you can shrink this a bit to a 9. You can shrink these to a 9 because they don't need to be so big. And as you expand it, you'll get a little more play out of that. Put a border around this. The grid lines. Do we need grid lines? Right click. Right, grid lines. No line. I think we'll be okay with no line because we'll put labels on this. I'll put a little bit of fill in here. The lightest you could get. That little bit of fill. You want your shadow. We like a shadow. Okay. But that's it. We did a bar graph. You can put some labels on this. Layout, data labels, outside. And what you can do is, I think you can rotate. I think that's what we did here. We rotated these things to, I don't know, minus 75 degrees, something like that. Make them smaller. Also, I think we expand, if you make it bigger like that, see, you're going to give it a little bit of life like that. See how that happens? Okay. You could even make them, and actually, you don't need 2 decimal places here. This could just be 1 decimal place, if that. There's no font there, but okay. Something like that. It's a little cluttered. We don't like it so cluttered as much. Axis title, horizontal, below. Years. Axis title, vertical, rotated. These are percentages. Okay, but there you go. You can cut this thing. You can move it a bit. But that's how you get the annual return, is like that. Actually, we jammed him in here a bit. I think at some point. Well, maybe it'll fit in here. It'll fit in. Yeah, it'll fit in there. Okay. But again, the bigger you make this thing, you grab that corner, and you want to be able to see as much of this as you can. And I think we series. That's too big. Yeah, you make it a little bit smaller, right? You can see it a little bit better. Okay, but that's one graph. That's why these took a little bit of time, this was 60 data points. Is it 60? Yeah, right, because it's 40 years and 20 years. Yeah, 60, yeah, 60 data points. 63 data points. We'll try to jam that bit of information in here someplace. We just go to select data, edit. Yeah, 63 data points. Okay, that's for annual returns. Mostly positive, but a few down years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So three out of 4 years you had positive returns. So right there you can analyze at the snap of a finger. That was based on annual returns. This is, yeah, these are year-to-year returns. The difference now is we're going to graph, yesterday's and today's is what we're going to do. Okay, so that'll be the next one. And actually, this will just be a scatter. So what we're getting today, this is T. Okay, this is T. Okay, insert scatter, and we're just going to do scatter. We're gonna fix that. Click on the layout, and then go to select data, edit. Your X is there. And actually, this should be 73. Wait, BQ 74. They should be the same. Yeah, so we're going to cut that first one out because you want these to link up. So 60 depends on what happened a year ago. And you can see it really doesn't, right? Obviously, these things, because there's the scatters all over the place. So we can do the legend up top, and you can see this a little bit better. These returns, you can make it smaller. The label is smaller. You don't need all those decimal places. I don't know why there's 2 all the time. You can make it 1. Okay, and you can make these dots. Format the data series, right click. Built in, we don't like diamonds. Make it round and make it smaller, like a 4. And the color, let's do something with the color. Make it purple and outline it. That's not what we wanted. We don't want a tread line. There's a little blue hue around it. Format the series. Option type fill. And we'll just do purple. We don't want to do that. I want to get rid of the blue. For the data series, fill, style, color, built in. I forgot how to do all that. Here's formatting your series. We don't need a line. All right, as well as you remember it, we'll do something with that. So, and that these might be a little bit big, so even like that. But you can see though, it's not, one doesn't lend itself, to the next. That's sort of what the problem is. We want a shadow. We don't want lines. Okay, but that's fine. So we'll leave it as that. So there's your scatter. So you can see they're pretty well scattered, which is sort of what the problem is. All right, yeah. It says prices will follow a random walk. X-axis, year T returns, right? Y-axis. And make it a little bigger. You can work with it a little bit better. This is X-axis, year T minus 1 returns, and these should be, yeah. Okay, so yeah, the year T, so does yesterday impact today? And it looks like a big no on that, right? And you don't even need the grid lines. These grid lines are ridiculous. You don't need grid lines, horizontal, none. Yeah. Okay, we'll worry about that another time. So, but it's a random walk though. It's a random walk. So, and here's the conclusion. Annual returns. Bottom one is no relationship whatsoever. Okay. Yeah. Put a border around. We don't want to fill. We want a border or something like that. All right. No relationship. And these are annual returns. Click here. Okay. Those are annual returns. Okay. So we had all that. And what was the next thing with this was yeah, 5%, 10%. Yeah, even this the step here can go. And you can put an angle to this. Something like that. But there you go. So obviously there's no, it's a random walk. And the other conclusion here was price will follow a random walk. So let's do that. Um, click here, insert. It says price. Okay. Okay, it says price will follow a random walk. I don't know, we can make these even a little smaller. Yeah, that fills. But there you go. Okay, price to follow a random walk. Good enough. And we can even put a fill, a white fill. Even a better, a little bit of a better standout on that. We have the year-over-year return, and then we have, it looks like, the random walk version of this. You have that version sitting here. Okay. And save as you go. And then the last graph the last thing we're gonna work on today. If a stock is fairly priced, we'll reflect all existing information. Oops, poorly spelled information. And we'll respond only to new information. Okay. And then we'll do the monthly version. Yeah, because of the correlation. And this, so we include a little more statistical muscle in this and say, hey, we know the correlation is really low, right? It's nearly zero. What is the correlation? Yeah, the correlation is, yeah, 0.172. Very small, right? Very small. So what did we do here? This was month to month returns. Oh yeah, it's these. All right, it's those. So yeah, the previous one, now this was yesterday. Now this was that one, the previous one, now previous one. Okay. So we did the same maneuver. So we'll do insert, scatter, like that. Same thing. Yeah, the same scenario. Chart title, legend, top, all the same maneuvers. Whoops, not what we wanted. I didn't want that. This is outline. Fill is very light. Format the series, option built in. Oh, I know what we're going to do. And then we want no lines. Data series on color. There we go. That's how we did it. We used a line and make it get down to 3. Right? We used a line is what we did. And then said no line. So I knew there was a way that we had done this in the past. Make these a little bit smaller. Make these a little bit smaller, the font. Okay. You don't need 2 decimal places. 1 is fine. 1 decimal place is there. Format the axis. 1 decimal place. And again, you got to, with Excel, you got to just, practice, right? So, but that's your data. We'll fix that other graph too in a second. We'll fix this. And we have these little conclusion boxes here. We'll throw those in going along here. All right. And you can work on a little bit bigger version, and now you can sort of play games with this and so and make how you're going to make this thing look. Annual returns. This is no relationship on year-to-year return. Year-to-year returns. Copy. But there you go. These are on the month to months. And with this one, we're going to come in here, data series. There we have that. And now watch what we're going to do. Even though we have lines in there, we're going to get rid of the lines. And we're going to say close. Data series, line color, no line. That's how we did it. So now they're full. Even the outside is full. So you have to sometimes you have to remember what you did, right? Now and then put the correlation coefficient in there. So is it 0172? Yeah, 0172. I have a good memory. 0172. But there you go. So you have the year-over-year returns. You have then you have the relationship says, okay, well, are the current returns dependent on previous years? It says price will follow random walk, and then you hammer down and beyond just your observation, you've hammered down with a correlation coefficient with little statistics that says basically the same thing. Okay, these are monthly returns. And monthly. So right click, select the data, edit monthly returns. Hit OK, hit OK. Because of the S&P 500 is, it's widely quoted, represents large publicly traded companies, focuses on market large cap sectors, also float weighted index, meaning company market capitalizations are adjusted by the number of shares available. So the weight depends on how many shares are out there. And actually, I think we had a red with this. So let's do a red. And then we'll do the line thing. We'll go to format the series, line color, no line. There you go. Okay, and you can get rid of the grid lines, format grid lines, no line. Put a shadow in this. You got a shadow in this thing since 60 or whatever it was. Okay. And this is the same axes. These are the same axes. So month T1 return. This is month. Right, we did 9 with that. 9 with that. Okay, that's month T returns. Now how much is now impacted, and then how much is the previous month. What that does for us. Okay, but there you go, and you can see it's the pattern. We care about the pattern more than anything else. We really care about the pattern, and then you save your work as you go along. Okay, so now like I said, you have a little more statistical muscle that to hit you with this. Okay, so we've spoken about this chapter. There's some other stuff here: technical analysis, random walk. Do we have that here? Yeah, here it is: technical analysis, random walk, fundamental analysis, efficient market. Prices appear to wander randomly. They're equally likely to offer a higher or lower return on a particular day, regardless of what has occurred on previous days. I don't know what happened to my typing here. I apologize for the typos. It's good we're finding them. 4 years later, we're finding these things, right? Of what has occurred on previous. Okay. Fundamental analysts study stocks for which price doesn't necessarily equal intrinsic value. But again, there's these classical definitions of what everyone's a value investor. Everyone's a growth. Who doesn't want growth? Everybody wants growth. So you got to be careful with some of these the wording here. right? And people who look to find the mispriced securities, that was certainly more common before we had computers and computers that, artificial intelligence and all these other changes that are happening in the in the culture and the society and in the work culture. The work culture is so different compared to what it used to be too, right? New York City, go to New York City lately and see how different it is. Very different from a couple years ago. So okay, but there's who we made our graphs. We had our discussion. So happy holidays, and we'll be picking all the stuff up very soon. Folks, take care.